But what was wrong with the claims that Jacob made?
Well, it's good that I'm here because I'll be able to hear from Jacob a little bit more about exactly what he's getting at. The main point is that the 10-year period is irrelevant to our current situation.
Now, the 10-year period regarding...
implementation of a free trade agreement with the EU. It's simply not relevant. There is a provision in the WTO rules which talks about a 10-year interim implementation period, but that's for countries that are joining new FTAs, not from countries which start from a position of free trade under an agreement.
Right. Do you understand the complexities? I mean, many people don't. Do you understand the complexities completely of international trade post-Brexit?
This comes down to Article 24 of the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades, and if you read through that, it makes provisions for you to have separate agreements with countries with which you have a contiguous border, so that covers the Irish issue, and it makes provisions for time limited, but doesn't specify the time, continuations of agreements or of agreements being in place whilst free trade discussions are underway. It doesn't say that this has to be a new trade agreement.
Well, I mean, we're in a new situation, so those provisions don't really apply to us. I mean, as far as contiguous border agreements go, there isn't really provision for that.
That's
if you look
Article 24. I've got it, actually. I thought this might come up. We can go through the article, but it's...
You'll see there that there's a reference to an exception to the most favoured nation obligation for the free territory of Trieste, and that's the sort of situation we're talking about.
No, Article 24 doesn't limit it. Article 24 says just that contiguous nations can have separate arrangements, and that it says nothing in this article is meant to stop nations with contiguous borders.
I don't really understand which bit of Article 24 says that. Are you talking about the bit which...
Just read Article 24.
Well, I've been reading Article 24 for 20 years, and I don't recognise the provision that you're referring to.
It's wonderful to have an academic in front of us. We had one in front of the Brexit committee last week who said that Britain would fall from 2nd to 20th in the international rankings, and when questioned on it, said he just plucked the figure out of the air.
Right.
So I haven't. I'm a lawyer, and I refer to words.
It's quite useful to look through the article, and
Mr. Rees Mogg, I just don't recognise that provision that you're referring to.
Well, perhaps we should get the article out.
Have you got it there? Can you read it? So which bit is it?
I put myself
we don't want it to
onto
get sort of too technical, but if Laurent, who has studied international trade agreements, doesn't recognise the paragraph that you referred to, which would allow for a 10-year period...
We need to go through the text.
Right. Well, while you're looking through that text, is there anything in there that would give provision to have this frictionless border with Northern Ireland while we set up a new customs arrangement?
Well, everything can be done by agreement and nothing can be done without agreement. Now, that agreement has to be with the EU. The agreement doesn't have to provide for free trade as of today. You do get 10 years if you want to stage your way from a position of non-free trade to a position of free trade. But you need to have an agreement. You need to notify it to the WTO. It can't be done on a unilateral basis.
Right, and that's the problem, isn't it, Jacob Rees Mogg?
You need to be in discussions.
No, you need to notify an interim agreement. It says that in the understanding on Article 24. It says in paragraph 7 of Article 24.
In Article 24, it makes it clear that you have to have a preliminary agreement. But a preliminary agreement can be the continuation of what you've currently got until you complete an agreement.
So long as it is an agreement.
Right, but hang on.
It has to be. Of course, but
hang on, Jacob Rees Mogg. There might not be an agreement. Isn't that the point? I mean, do you see?
No, this is really straightforward. If that's the only quibble, that's not, I think, a problem at all. Okay. That it's very straightforward for the UK and the EU to say that we will continue this agreement until we have developed a new agreement.
Right,
in that case, we're in agreement.
Well, that's perfect.
Well, that's great at the end of the show. But can I just ask?
Kill the debate.
On the basis of some of the things that you've said, I think this morning actually in one of the modcasts, that you thought we were getting to the point where you wonder whether the government really wants to leave at all. What did you mean by that?
Well, there's a beginning to be a feeling that we are modelling ourselves on the grand old Duke of York, that we get marched up the top of the hill and we get marched down again. That lots of things that were in the transition period weren't going to happen. So the Prime Minister on the trip to China said there wouldn't be free movement of people. About 2 days before, we were told fishing wouldn't be included, and then they were included. And gradually it looks as if we get still very fine words, but we're not getting the action that follows those words. And therefore people like me are becoming cautious about what the government is really trying to do.
So you think there is a gap between words and deeds?
I think if you look at the transition, you can do a very clear gap between words and deeds.
All right. Well, Laurent, thank you for coming in and reaching the agreement.
No, glad we've reached
well, at least you've reached agreement. I'm not sure that can be said for anybody else. York.